You ready to do this, Steve?
Let's do it, Spence. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Missed you guys.
We're two best friends. Despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 17.
Woo-wee. Man, we're almost to like 100 episodes. Whew.
So, Steve, as we almost up to 100... Math wasn't your forte in school, was it, my friend?
Me fail English? That's impossible.
Right. So we have a special treat here tonight on the Fortress of Nerditude. A guest of great renown, the Wayne Gretzky of podcasting, the greatest Canadian to have ever been born besides Wayne Gretzky. Sean Capri is in the house. Sean, what is going on?
Spencer, you know my mantra. I want to set the bar as low as possible. You can't compare me to the greatest hockey player ever lived. I'm very happy to be here. With that said, I'm so glad that I could be part of the show. And you threw me off because I really wanted to just comment. My favorite part of the show is when you launch into, it's episode number whatever, and then you go, yeah, what? Isn't that amazing? We're so great. We made it to this episode every week. It's so great. I can't wait until you celebrate episode 200 the same way you celebrated episode 12. It's amazing.
Right. We're like, and it's
Baby
episode
steps, Sean.
200.
Baby steps.
We're still
No, guaranteed it's going to be the exact same, like 200. Yeah. 12. Hooray. 13. Good for us.
A baker's dozen.
Hey, listen, I'm just alive. I'm happy I'm alive. So
Yeah, the fact that we come back is really a miracle for listeners at home. The fact that we come back, I'm telling you.
I'm celebrating with you guys. Not making fun. I'm celebrating. It's amazing. So happy to be here.
So, Sean, we're glad you're here. So, some of our listeners may not know you. Most of them probably do, because, I mean, how could they not, right? That's all I'm saying. But, Sean, let's go over this. I came across you, I think, through my brother, and we met on the internet, and we talked, and we became internet best friends.
Internet boyfriends?
Yep,
best friends?
absolutely.
Yeah, what you said.
Sure.
Yeah, what you said.
So, you're on two podcasts now, currently. We the Gamercast and If We Ran Nintendo. You used to do Nerdflix and Chill, but then you retired, which was sad. I understand why. So I'm happy that we've got you here, because it's kind of like we're fitting you in for a third podcast this week,
Let's
right?
just do it. Let's just make this official. Did this just happen?
This just happened.
Did I?
Did you email the contract?
Just
Is this
Monday
thing official?
nights. That's it.
I think Chelsea may kill me
This
if
is
I'm
what's
like, hey,
happening.
I hijacked Sean another night.
Here's the best thing about If We Ran Nintendo, and now this third show that I do, The Fortress of Nerditude. I just show up. I'm just Bobby takes care of everything. I've got a whole Google Doc here.
That's
Nerdflix
right.
and Chill, I gotta watch a movie at home. I gotta go to the theater. I've gotta record the show, prepare all the notes, it was probably like a 7 to 8 hour commitment every single week, which was amazing. Like, all I really wanted to do is I got this stack full, I'm sure you guys are the same, just stacks and stacks of movies and DVDs that if I don't do a podcast, I'll never watch them ever again. So I got to dive into that a little bit, but ultimately, like, there's just no way. So Nerdflix and Chill, we have a lot of friendship that's just immortalized on the internet now. So
It's true. That's true.
it's too bad.
Yeah, awesome. Though, like, I understand. I mean, coming from a place where I'm a father of 2 kids, and I love my boys, but they're crazy little monkeys, and they require a lot of time. And then looking at Steve, I mean, Steve's got 4 kids. I can't
we know
imagine.
About. I'm just saying.
Well, that's true. That's
Whoa.
true. Cricket.
Right.
So
Post-production edit.
I mean, no, oh no, oh no, my friend. But anyway, you doing 3 podcasts, I just look at that and go, oh man, woo, that's got to require a lot of time. But now you can join us and just show up and do your thing and then go back home and be done.
Sean,
That's awesome.
I'm definitely in your position here that I get to basically come. I mean, like you said, Spencer's got all the notes put together. He's got all the show notes. He's got I just come and talk. I mean, I really, it's awesome.
Yeah, well, the
Spencer,
best thing is, I mean, it's different for me because I can say that and nobody gets upset at me. But like, he's right there. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but like, Spence is right there.
Oh, he knows. He's had 38 years of this.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's right. That's true.
I just show up, man.
That's true.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
It's awesome though.
I usually show up late.
Well,
that's what's
Just
changed.
bottle it up. Just bottle it up. Bottle those feelings up.
right.
Pushing it down.
Yeah, it's fine. It's very healthy.
So, Sean, we start every week where we kind of catch up with everyone. Tell us what's going on in your life. What's new for you? Some of our listeners may not know you, so this is your chance to spew forth upon our listeners.
I really enjoy this part of the show with you guys, and I'm like, you never know what you're going to talk about. I didn't even know this morning what I was going to talk about. We could go super nerdy. Okay, so here's the one thing. We're getting the nursery ready. We have a baby on the way. April 8th is the due date. I'm taking bets take your guesses, make your picks.
April 1. April Fool's Day.
No, there's no way. Like, she's got to hold it. That's
I'm gonna say the 2nd of April, and I'm gonna say like 10:15 in the morning, Mountain Standard Time.
I like that because now it's recorded.
How many seconds?
6.
I'm writing it down, Sean.
So we had a dresser drawer given to us. They had it sanded down, everything was done. So Chelsea did like a nice custom paint job, and but it didn't come with any handles. So what we're doing is actually creating custom Mario question blocks we've actually got 3 different ones. We're gonna do question block, the little music note, like the white cube with the music note, and then a POW block. So they're gonna be kind of like randomly put on there. So I've got like you can't see it. I've got a whole bunch of nerd stuff behind me, but just below here is a little painting project that I've got going here. And I can't wait. I'm taking pictures along the way. Can't wait to show everybody it when they're finished. So the reason that we came up with this idea actually is when Chelsea and I got married, I painted the boxes that the rings came in, and they look like little yellow question blocks. So when you open it up, we had kind of like very minor Mario theme. It wasn't like I didn't dress up like in my overalls or anything like that, but little, like my cufflinks were little mushrooms and just little hints everywhere. So we wanted to bring that forward.
As I recall, when you guys had your announcement of the sex of the baby, you guys had a cake made, right? There was either like blue or pink on the inside, and it was made like a question box for Mario?
Totally. It was exactly that. And on the inside, it was, we didn't know the gender. So blue and red for boy or Mario, and then if it was a girl, it would have been pink and yellow like Princess Peach. So
nice.
Yeah, but, the thing is about this is that this kid is going to grow up and hate video games.
Oh, probably.
Like, he's just gonna think his parents are such losers. Yeah, exactly. That would be all right though. That'd be okay. I could deal with chess. I could deal with if you like space.
He's going to come out with a monocle and a tone like, Father, I prefer if we play pickup sticks and jacks.
It's not a cookie, Mother. It's a fig Newton.
Chelsea's going to give birth to Benjamin Button over here.
Wow, that is awesome.
So yeah, just a little
mad props though. Mad props to your handy skills and your nerd skills.
The thing that dawned on me while I was doing this is that this kid isn't even here yet, and I already love building things for him. Like, that is just the coolest thing. And hopefully he likes to do that sort of stuff too. I remember doing a whole bunch of that kind of thing with my dad. My dad's still around. That made it sound like he's passed on. My dad is still awesome. But we used to build like model rockets together. Like, that's about as nerdy as it gets to without really getting into like, aside from comic book, but model rockets are super nerdy, as I've learned. And yeah, these things had little engines. We'd go over to like a farmer's field out in the backwoods of Alberta and just like trespass all you want and launch some rockets.
That's right.
Super cool.
I gotta say a small side note really quick. I love having a Canadian on the show because I love to hear when you say about. I just love it. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I feel like I'm watching like You Can't Do That on Television back on Nickelodeon when I was like 8 or something. About. I love it. Keep going. Sorry.
I really am working on it. But
no,
sometimes
don't.
It comes through.
No, don't.
Be true
Sean.
to who you are, Sean.
No, I hate how it sounds.
Oh,
And I didn't even realize. So yeah, so that's in the nerdy life. In the non-nerdy life, I don't know. I feel like for some reason I might be going on a limb, but this might excite you guys. I'm going. Tool just announced that they're going on tour and they're coming to Edmonton.
Nice.
So I'm super pumped about that. That's kind of a little bit of a music geek out. I'm totally, and Metallica's coming, but I'm not going there because I've seen them a couple times, and they're like they're doing a stadium tour, and in the summertime in Edmonton, Alberta, in August or July or whenever they're coming, it is like daylight at 10:30 at night. So concerts in the stadiums are not good. Like there's no mood. There's just like the sun is out. Like it's high noon.
Noonday. James Hetfield is like this.
You basically get to the encore, and they're like, that's when the lighting comes in. So I'm not too pumped about that. But Tool, my God, I love those guys.
Nice.
That is
very
awesome.
nice. I was trying to think just real quick. When was the last time I saw Metallica? And I think it was when they were on the Death Magnetic tour. They came through town, and me and my friend Matt and a friend named Aaron, we all got general admission tickets, and we were probably about like 3 to 4 rows of people from the stage down on the floor, and it was kind of like in the round, so they would kind of move around, and they were flicking pics and stuff, and like James Hetfield sweat all over us. It was glorious and disgusting all at the same time.
So good. If he was like clipping his fingernails, you'd land on your forehead.
Clipping his toenails right near us.
Oh gosh.
Personal hygiene.
Smells like blue cheese. Yeah.
Clipping my toenails. Ooh, yeah. Ingrown. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. You can tell we all love Metallica because we know his little idiosyncrasies to a T. So, Sean, I wanted to hit something up real quick, totally aside. This week on We the Gamer Cast, you were having a lovely conversation, and at the beginning of the show when you were doing the intro, because I know you said someone's going to correct me on this, someone's going to tell me this. He was talking about the no-win scenario in Star Trek, but he couldn't quite get the name down. It's the Kobayashi Maru, my friend.
I don't know how it slipped. I don't know why that isn't always on the tip of my tongue.
Right, exactly. That sounds like some horrible dish in a Thai restaurant or something.
Yeah,
I'll have the Kobayashi Maru. Like, oh no, he ordered the Kobayashi Maru. Like some puffer fish. You got to cut the little pot out.
Anyway, I thought of that and I was like, I'm going to write that down because we can talk about that tonight.
I know, it should have been, I like Usual Suspects, so it should have been Kobayashi, it should have been right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? So
thank you for that, though. It was killing me ever since. I didn't think of it even remotely.
You're like, I haven't even thought about it since
it was as quickly as it didn't come to my mind. It was just as quickly gone.
Spencer will open every wound and pour salt.
Spencer's like, remember that time you forgot that thing?
He's like the little Morton girl with the umbrella. Pour that salt right in.
My rear's a little bigger, though, unfortunately. So that's the little suntan girl with the copper toe.
With the little dog. You're like mixing.
Anyway, so
Gerber
you guys
baby
are fun.
and like copper tone and weirdo.
How did I mix the two of those in my mind?
And you're lambasting Sean for forgetting the Kobayashi Maroon.
Exactly.
Yeah,
goes around, comes around, my friend.
It goes around quickly, apparently.
Exactly.
So, Sean, you're doing well. Chelsea's obviously still pregnant. That hasn't happened yet.
I just spilled my water.
Yep, still pregnant.
Nice.
She's playing Horizon Zero Dawn right now.
Oh, nice. How's she liking that so far?
She's given it a real good, usually when Chelsea doesn't like a game, she'll just go right back to Fallout 4. But she wasn't sure about this one. About this one? About
this one.
But she wasn't sure. I don't even know what. She wasn't sure how she felt. Dang it, here it comes again. With regards to Horizon Zero Dawn.
Sean is working so hard not to say
around that movie.
I'm actually sweat is pouring off my forehead. Just it's breaking my brain. She's really liking it now though. So
that's cool.
She wasn't sure at first, but yeah, I think she just wants to keep it from me at this point. As long as she's got it in her PS4, I'm not going to be playing it anytime soon. Luckily, I've got Zelda because
right.
I was playing, I don't know. Spencer, you know me. I'm gonna go on tangents here, so you have to forgive me just for a second.
Have you heard our show? That's what we do.
I know, but I feel like I'm just like, this is why I do the whole thing by myself at the beginning of my show, because nobody can. Anyway, now I'm just
the fortress of
totally making it go longer.
That's what we're gonna rename
Tangitude. It sounds like an affliction.
That's right.
Or something in the Kama Sutra.
So I was trying massive
family show.
I don't even want to go with what I walked into on this call, so we won't even go off air. I won't even go there. I was playing Mass Effect. I don't know if you guys are finding this. You know, you're busy and like we all have lives, and when you finally get some spare time, you fall on the couch, and like sometimes if a game isn't really engaging you, you can just kind of doze off a little bit, and that was happening with me with Mass Effect a little bit. Just wasn't really engaging me. Then last night, I was playing Zelda until 2:30 in the morning. Like, I don't do 2:30 in the morning anymore, even if I'm out with friends and stuff. Like, that is just not in my energy anymore. And before I knew it, 2:30, it was almost like 3 o'clock was coming up, and I'm like, 3.5 hours before work is going to be bad, but somehow like 4 hours I'll probably pull through. So now is a good time. Now's a good time to pull the plug.
4 hours is my minimum.
Yes, turns out. Yeah, turns out.
It's good. It's good. Diction.
All right. Nice. I love that. You know, I can't tell you how many times up until just recently I was doing the same thing with Zelda. Like, I was looking at the clock going, oh man, the kids are going to be up in 4 hours. I got to get to bed because this is not going to be good in the morning. Daddy's not going to be happy. But
worth it.
You know, it happens.
Worth it.
Steve, what is going on with you, my friend? What's going on this last week?
Life is good. Took my scouts, I work with the Boy Scouts, as I've said before. I took them out on a camp out on Friday night. It was freezing cold.
Everyone live?
You know, like I said, 75% is passing. Yes, everyone lived. They actually, I told them, I said, you know what, guys, I am sick of eating hot dogs. I have enough nitrates in this body from many days at the ballpark. I said, I don't need any more. So they actually made a stew, and they went to like they made it from scratch, went to like Costco, got stew meat, chopped up vegetables, made the roux, which is apparently the term to make this, I don't know. Anyway, and it was really good. They did a good job, so I was proud of them. They passed, and no one died from at least food poisoning. But it was funny because we picked a different camp spot up in Wisconsin that we haven't been to before. And in our campsite, we actually had like a mini sledding hill. It was like maybe, I don't know, 15 feet up, right? And one of the kids brought a sled. So and it had snowed like 2 days before. So we set up camp, we start a fire, everything's good, we're cooking. And so they start to get on the sledding hill. And the sledding hill is like aiming right at the fire. So they're like sledding down this hill into the fire. I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Like, this is not a good idea. And like, no, it's fine. And so they had fun with it. Did you tell them that the proper way is to build a jump to go over the fire? Exactly. That's what you got to do. A barrel roll over the fire.
Do a barrel
style points. And what was funny, though, is we woke up the next morning, and I look at this hill, and there was no snow on it at all. So it must have been like a light dusting the night before, but it probably only lasted for a few runs. So they were like dirt sledding for like an hour and a half. I'm like, how'd that even work? I defies the law of gravity. So anyway, had a good time with that. Had just a good weekend. Weather was good on Sunday. I actually, so I've been trying to, as I mentioned last week, quasi training, and you can do that, quasi-moto training for this kind of little 5K, which I don't know if you're really training for those. You just go and do them. Anyway, so I'm running on this treadmill.
Right, Spence?
Yeah.
You just go do the 5K. No big deal.
Yeah, just go do it. Hold on. Let me have 3 heart attacks while I think about that.
I get 2 bear claws shoved down here at the same time. So I was like, you know, I bet I could, you know, I haven't run real far. I usually run a few miles on the treadmill. I'm like, I want to do some distance. So I turn on the TV, which I never usually do. So I turn on the TV while I'm running the treadmill, and I just start watching some stupid crap on TV. And it turns out like this Survivor-esque show, not really Survivor, but it's called Kicking and Streaming. And it's this new show on Fox. It's got like a bunch of like, you know, hardcore, like a mercenary and like a Navy SEAL and like a tracker and all this stuff. And they get paired up with like these celebrity foo-foo, like NFL cheerleader.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember seeing a preview for that.
The stupidest crap. Anyway, so I watched that for like an hour and a half. I looked down and I'm like, I've been running for 86 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm like,
What?
no wonder my knee's about to give up. Yeah, I ran for 86 freaking minutes.
I don't even like driving for 86 minutes.
The heel to toe movement. I know you can really get tired on the ankle movement. But yeah, so I ran I ran for 86 minutes, and I was like, 5K, man, I'm gonna do 27 miles. Do a marathon
awesome.
and then some.
And I hate you all at the same time.
Just gonna drink my Diet Pepsi over here. That's my healthy choice.
Right. So anyway,
Wow.
so it was a good week, though.
Very
it was a good
impressive.
Week, and I have to say that I actually like a lot of. I'm just going to say this for Sean's benefit. So when Sean was first introduced to me, he was only by name, not by face. Never met him before until about
Hi.
20 minutes ago and 22 seconds. But how he was introduced to me was Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. And it reminds me of and I love that, by the way. It was a great handle, and it just you can't forget it. But it makes me think of Celebrity Jeopardy, which is
yeah.
the old SNL skit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Spencer and I used to sit in our dorm room, or our college dorm room when we first were roommates in college, and we used to like watch those like
Over and over.
Over and over,
Yep.
like famous cities. Dolly Parton! Not a fan of the ladies, are you, Trebek? Anyway, so that just reminds me of good times and great oldies.
My dad gave it to me. Apparently, he was a fan. My grandma told me once upon a time that I was named. Like Sean like Connery does come from my grandma telling me that my dad was a big fan of Sean Connery in the 80s. So
Really?
Nice.
apparently, I have no idea. Like she doesn't even know what her brother's name was, which is weird because she doesn't have a brother. Like it's kind of this. We have very strange conversations now. So who knows?
Awesome. Well,
Wow.
we are so happy to have you on the show. Like I said, it's awesome to have you, and thank you for gracing us with your Canadian bacon. That's not some kind of innuendo either.
Sizzling.
It is. What are you saying? Sean is out of here. Sorry. Bye, Sean. Good seeing you.
So weird. I'm going under a tunnel. My connection's getting fuzzy.
Yeah. Is there a niner in there?
I don't know. I just found this
Just
in my basement.
ask those right there.
You had symbols ready.
It was a gong. I gonged myself.
Oh,
No.
my goodness.
I'm in my basement, strewn about like children's toys, and that was just the first thing I could grab.
I've got coasters that Josh made for me. That's what but I don't want to smash these. They're too amazing.
Yeah. Don't.
No smashing.
Don't.
No smash.
Oh, wow. Steve, let me tell you about my week. And Sean knows some of this already, I feel like. So this week has been really up and down, mostly up, a little bit down. And the sad
Into
part...
an amusement park.
Yeah, up, down, up, down. I'll get to the sad part first. My Nintendo Switch got scratched by the dock that comes with it. And that actually happened on day one. I put it in the dock, and I didn't feel, and I even messaged Sean and Bobby about this, like maybe a few days after, and I said, man, it doesn't fit in the dock right. I pulled it out, and I saw what it looked like smudges, but I just kind of went, nah, it's probably from my handling it when I first put it in, put it back in, didn't think about it. And then I went to take it to work with me and show it off to my coworkers, and I realized those aren't smudges, those are scratches. So I was angry, and I took to Twitter, and I vented for a little bit, and then my brother, being the good brother that he is, calmed me down and said, hey, contact Nintendo. So it's off. It's at Nintendo. I got a notification today that they are now working on it. So hopefully within the next week or so, I can be back aboard the Zelda train, and my boys can be happy with me again, because they haven't been happy. They're a little upset about it, too. Jackson keeps making the little finger motions for controller, saying, Zelda, Zelda,
Aww.
Zelda, like every day. And I'm like, I'm sorry, buddy. Daddy's a horrible person who can't figure out how to put his Switch in the dock, and I had to send it back.
Don't sell yourself short. That's how he's there.
That's right.
That's how you have a son.
Like some...
You put it... Never mind.
Yeah.
Somebody out there got that dick joke.
Yeah. So, other than that, let's see. I did a thing that is hard to admit because it sounds worse than it really is.
This is a safe
My brother started talking to me about amiibos, and I'm jumping back into Nintendo, and I've explained this before. I'm jumping back into Nintendo after being out a while. I skipped the Wii U. I did not like that console, so I didn't want to pay money for it. Now I'm like totally all in. Like the Switch has got me hooked. Zelda has me hooked all the way. And Josh starts saying, hey, have you heard about these amiibos? I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And so I start looking into it and doing some research, and he's like, yeah, I'm thinking about maybe getting one. And I was like, yeah, maybe me too. We'll see. And then like that night I went out and bought 7 amiibos, and then I had like 2 more ordered. So I've got like 8 or 9 of them.
It begins.
Oh, man.
Yes, Spencer.
Now,
join us.
I know. It's like my wife says, do you know how much money you just spent on toys? I'm fairly aware since I was swiping the card. Yeah. And she just looked at me and shook her head.
Though.
Yeah, she just looked at me, shook her head, and just said, all right, take it out of your Christmas/birthday money, because I've got some money I've been saving up. And she's like, whatever. So I built shelves this weekend. I didn't build them. I installed shelves this weekend. And of course, I put mine up, and like before I even do the ones on the other side of the room for Brita, I get my amiibos all lined up there, and then I put some other various knickknacks, some of the stuff from my World Series trip back to Chicago to see the Cubs, and I've got a can of Dr. Pepper with the Incredible Hulk on it that I've had since
that's awesome.
2012, and so that's up there from the first Avengers movie. And so, yeah, I put up shelves, and I put up my toy collection, and of course that's like scratching the surface, because if I really wanted to put up my toy collection, I'd have to install shelves in every house in the room. Every room in the house. Yeah, let's do it that way. I'd have to put up shelves in every room in the house, and I'd have to go into the basement and pull out all my Star Wars toys that I have been keeping since I was a kid, with the idea that one day they would pay for my college. Yeah.
Was that really the plan? Was that ever part of the deal?
It was.
I think
justification.
I think somehow I justified that that's why I was keeping them in the cases, and so it just became like the line I tell people. And now I just look at them and go, man, I should have opened those and played with them. But
Never.
one day maybe they'll be worth something.
Most of mine are still in the cases. I'd like to keep things, which is weird, and I have no plans of selling them. Like, there's really no investment there. Sometimes I just like the look of them. Like, if the artwork looks great, then I will keep it, like the amiibo in there. That was basically like, I just built the shelf behind me like maybe 2 weeks ago.
IKEA?
Yeah, it's just a standard little like sphere.
If you look further behind me, Sean,
it's exactly like
it's weird. Exact
it's the
same
thing.
Or over here.
We just need to talk about Swedish meatballs, and IKEA will sponsor this podcast.
And Londonberry sauce.
That'd be all right.
So I didn't know if I should open mine or not. Just side tangent.
So which ones did you say? Which ones?
Okay, so I've got all of the Breath of the Wild ones. So the Bobbleclin, the Guardian, Arch Link, Rider Link, Zelda.
That's what I'm missing.
I've got Ocarina of Time Link. I've got Ganondorf from Smash, and
Nice.
I've got Wolf Link from Twilight Princess.
That is so. So you're gonna stop there? You know there are more.
No.
Yeah, you got your Mega Man.
I really would like to finish off the Zelda stuff. So I'd like to get all the Smash Zelda stuff, and then Wind Waker / Twilight Princess. And then I look at it and go, there's some Mario and Luigi ones that look pretty cool. I'm like, dang it. I'm a man that's pushing 40, and I'm just now getting into buying a whole nother round of toys again. And those dang new Star Wars toys, the Black Series that are redoing kind of the Kenner originals, are getting ready to come out.
Those are awesome.
Like in April.
Right.
Oh man, I'm done.
Just own it.
I'm good. I'm owning it. I'm just saying I'm done. My wife's gonna kill me.
Nah.
Well, maybe. She'll probably get a Disneyland trip out
Not
of it.
all
That's
the
what
way
she'll
dead.
do.
Only
mostly dead.
Just a little dead.
Anyway, the last thing I wanted to talk about this week, I actually sat down and talked with Sean for his podcast, We the Gamer Cast, and we recorded that on Saturday, which was a great time, and I had a lot of fun doing that, Sean.
Thanks,
really
man.
did.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm stockpiling a couple of episodes in preparation. I'm not sure. I have no idea what baby is gonna be like, what having a kid is gonna be like. So yeah, I don't want Nerdflix and Chill to happen with We the Gamercast, so it's kind of nice that we can record these, and they're really evergreen. Like the conversation we had, honestly, it's not about what's happening, like with regards to like the news or anything like that. It's just two buddies having a good chat, and it was awesome, man. I can't wait to air it. People are in for a real treat. So that'll go up on Monday.
I had a lot of fun, and Anytime. Like I said, anytime, which is obviously one of the reasons I'm like, I'm going to have Sean on with us, and then we're going to make it a regular thing. And
I keep eating crow, whether or not it's me talking crap about the Switch on If We Ran Nintendo, or me telling you that I'm going to watch the Lego Batman movie, and now you launching your whole listenership on me, just like, everybody attack, swarm.
Go, get him.
Flank the sides.
Yeah. So,
Didn't see that coming.
Steve, I wanted to tell you, we've been having great weather here lately. How's your weather out in Chicago? I've just been curious because I know the big storms and everything.
Yeah, it's been cold. It was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. It got up to like 70, which was a record high since like 1872 or I don't know something. But lately it's been cold. It's been kind of cold and wet.
Boo hoo.
Well, let me tell you, here it's been
you're north
warm.
of the Mason-Dixon line up there, Sean.
Yeah. Here it's been warm. It's been really nice. Right now it's a clear black night, a clear white moon. Warren G was on the streets trying to consume some skirts for the eve so I can get some funk. Just rolling in my ride, chilling. What's up? Just hit the east side of the LBC on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G. See a car full of girls, ain't no need to tweak. All your skirts know what's up with 213. What up? Mic drop.
What just happened?
Oh, set it up and knocked it down.
Did anybody see this coming? Was that? I'm like,
I did a mile away.
So two episodes ago,
flabbergasted.
2 episodes ago, Sean, Steve and I were just messing around before the podcast, and I ended up breaking into Rump Shaker by Rex and Effects during the mic check section. And Steve begged me to keep that in the podcast, so I did. And then last week, he says, oh, I've got something for you. And he dropped a little 90s R&B on me.
Little California love, Tupac
Didn't want to be left out. And so he said, I'm throwing down the gauntlet. And I said, all right, we'll see. I got something for you.
Damn.
Mr. Warren G. Nice.
Nate Dogg and Warren G. Anyway.
You should have finished that off with the symbols. That would have been just great.
Right.
It's too late.
Little belated symbols.
The sad thing is, like, I can do that whole song just off the top of my head. The whole song.
I love it how they call girls skirts. Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah, that's a nice euphemism compared to most of what the lyrics are.
My kids have gone to bed. My gosh.
Well, Steve, Sean, let's move on. Let's get into my favorite part of the podcast, the meat and potatoes, if you will, the Kobayashi Maru. No, sorry, Sean, I'm just messing with you.
Can't move on.
Let's get to some Rebel Intelligence.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. It's time for some Rebel Intelligence. I always have to let you know, Steve, that many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, guys, Rebel Intelligence. I feel like, Steve, you and I have done this way too many times lately, but we're going to start off on a sad note. Rock and roll legend Chuck Berry is dead, unfortunately. He died at 90. It was last weekend it happened. Chuck Berry, for me, was the guy I became aware of through Back to the Future. Like, that was how I became aware of him, right? I think a lot of kids maybe our age probably became aware of him, but a pioneer in the rock and roll era of the 50s. I mean, he inspired everyone from like the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix. Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones basically said that when he heard Chuck Berry play, he says he knew that that's what he wanted to do. And he said that he basically stole every lick from Chuck Berry. So it's with a heavy heart that he's passed. But here's something that I find really upbeat, not upbeat about his passing, but upbeat about him and what his legacy is going to be. Chuck Berry's famous Johnny Be Good song was included on the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. They did this thing called like the gold record, and they included a whole bunch of music. And currently Voyager 1, was sent out from the solar system. It's currently in interstellar space. It's like 20 billion kilometers from Earth, which I don't speak Canadian, so I know that's a long way away.
The devil language.
But I think that's a really kind of a cool thing, because while Chuck Berry is no longer here with us, his music is going to live on past time and space, and is just going to continue to go on and on and on and on and on. And so I don't know. I find that just really satisfying on a personal level. I don't know about how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by this whole, one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to that isn't video games related is Star Talk Radio. And so I was just listening to them talk about Voyager 1 and 2 and this whole notion. It's a very romantic sort of idea of peace and love and the art. Like, it's everything about Voyager in terms of getting it out into space is all science. It's all hard math and getting it out there. But they took the time to really embody and put in there what it is that makes us human. And it's the arts, it's music, it's all the softer side of things.
Right.
And I just am fascinated that is a thing that is just going to continue on. It's sort of getting to the limit. I think it's actually just outside of the solar system at this point. And it's just the coolest thing. I'm fascinated by it. So I'm glad you brought it up, because I love it.
Well, I think that kind of goes along with I know with my kids in school right now, everything's all STEM this, STEM that, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But now they have recoined it, and they've now calling it STEAM, right? Because they have added arts to that. And I think that they found that you're right. It's lacking the humanities, and the humanities are so important. And so, Sean, I appreciate your perspective on that. You know, one thing I think about whenever I think about Johnny Be Good and Back to the Future, which is the same way that I knew about Chuck Berry when I was a kid, is that I always thought that Michael J. Fox was singing it. And I would always tell him, he's really singing it. She's like, it's not him, Steve. I'm like, and Ferris Bueller, he was singing Twist and Shout on the Float. He's like, no, that was John Lennon. Steve's like, no, it wasn't. My mom and I would like get in like these arguments. Apparently, she was right.
It's as if we, in our minds, lip syncing wouldn't be actually a thing for another like 10 or 15 years.
Exactly.
Right.
Like
for us to be old and crotchety and be like, they're not even singing anymore.
Until Milli Vanilli broke my ruined my childhood and my youthful innocence.
Mm-hmm. Just blame it on the rain, Steve.
You gotta blame it on rain.
You know, something that was really kind of cool is after Back to the Future 2, I really kind of liked Chuck Berry. I mean, I never got like really into it, but I remember my dad or my mom, I'm not quite sure which, they came home one day with a cassette tape of like Chuck Berry's greatest hits. And I think if I go down in the basement and find my audio cassette tape collection, I bet you I still have that down there. Matter of fact, I'm almost positive I do. So I remember listening to a few of his songs as a kid, but yeah, it's sad that he's gone. You know, our love and respect and prayers go out to his family and loved ones that are still here with us, obviously. But obviously, he will never be forgotten. And at one time, as the famous skit with Steve Martin, you know, aliens are gonna make contact with us, and they're gonna want more Chuck Berry.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's going to be so cool when aliens do find it. They'll be like, man, that's so awesome. That's that song Michael J. Fox sang in Back to the Future. He just crash landed on our planet.
And they're going to come here and find out Chuck's no longer here, and they're going to destroy the planet. So
exactly.
That'll be the reason.
Yeah.
Where's your leader? Well, a life well lived.
Yes. Sean, what do you have for us, my friend?
Okay, so during the credits, I don't know if you guys knew this, during the credits of Zelda Breath of the Wild, one name sticks out. I think it's because he's a white guy, or no, wait, that's not what we said. Corey Bunnell. The reason is because it's the only English name. It has nothing to do with. It's the only English name in a long list of Japanese names. So, with the help of Google, a Reddit user, Tizzlefix, and if Tizzlefix is listening, give us a shout out.
What up,
That's a hard word for me to say. What's up, Tizzlefix? He found that, I'm not sure how he's saying that, but I feel like I'd have an easier time saying one of the Japanese names. Bunnell had posted 10 years ago on a Translators Cafe forum for advice on how to study more and work in Japan. The advice was to go to Japan to teach English, as it was an easier way to get a work visa. Bunnell's dream was to work for Nintendo, so he went to Japan, and after a few years, he got admitted to a private school. Good Lord, Spence, what is the story? Ritsu
Maikan?
Sure.
I think.
So there he studied programming, and he graduated. After he graduated, he was placed as an intern with Nintendo and eventually worked into a full-time position and achieved his dream. So that's all you got to do, boys and girls. You got to
go to a foreign country, learn another language, apply to a prestigious private university, get in good with the alumni, and then get placed with one of the largest, game manufacturers and programming departments and developers. Yeah.
It's really too bad that this story is now famous, that Tizzlefix blew the lid off of this, because now you're going to have just a whole bunch of English kids going on over and doing this exact same thing.
They're going to build a wall.
Someone pointed this out online. They said that not only would he have had to have learned the language to be fluent in it enough to read and write it, but that going through like the whole process of getting admitted to a private university over there is extremely difficult for foreigners. And then on top of that, how do you put it? Like his business acumen, like the ability to understand not just how to read and write in Japanese, but understand like how to work in the business world in Japan and all the intricacies and the respect and all the other things. Like it was really like threading a needle, like the eye of the needle, to make that happen. And that's really cool. Have you guys seen the pictures of this guy online?
Is he white?
Yeah, absolutely. He totally is. But there's this picture in Japan of like a ton of the programmers for Breath of the Wild, and it's Japanese people as far as the eye can see. And then in the back, in like a pink shirt, there's like this one white guy that stands out, and it's this guy. So
that was awesome.
It's just kind of a feel-good story, right? I mean, he had a dream and he set out to do it, and he said that I'm trying to think what he said. He said his mission was to bring joy and happiness to the world. I mean,
Disney was maybe in his backyard. I don't know. He kind of went out of his way for that. Teach their own.
Now, what exactly did he do on the game? What was his role? Does anybody know?
He did. What was it? It was basically like every time you're out in the wild and you're trying to like hunt down like the boars or the goats or the bears or the birds. Basically, he was doing like the wildlife kind of stuff. So in the game, you can go around and you can basically kill any of the wildlife, and you'll get meat from them, and you can use that meat to cook and stew and make up potions and elixirs and whatnot. And he basically did a lot of the programming on like the wildlife. So that was his job.
Very interesting.
Yeah, fun fact, and rare. A lot of people don't realize this about in order to train him for this, the harshness of the Nintendo and the Japanese culture was actually to throw him out into the wilderness and learn to hunt and eat and care for himself. So that's where he gets such realism. So that was
method.
I know they buried the lead. It was weird in this story. They buried that was kind of the most interesting part to me, but we didn't see it. You kind of have to go down in that inverted pyramid the way they write the story.
That's right. That's
nice.
Right.
Nice. Very well.
Funny. Well, speaking of games, this one slows it down for us a little bit. America has voted, folks. The votes are in, and apparently the wheelbarrow, the boot, and the thimble are out as long-standing Monopoly game pieces. It's the votes are in. So the new pieces. Have you guys heard about this? Have you seen the story?
I have. Yeah.
The new pieces are the penguin, a T-Rex, and a rubber ducky.
Now, do you mean like Batman's the penguin?
Right, Danny DeVito is on the little
the way
thing.
you said it, yeah. I'm in the no Monopoly game.
Burgess Meredith is no. So we have these new Monopoly pieces, and now there's just another reason to fight. But what's interesting about this is I read a different article than the one Spence you posted, and it actually there was a person who judges like championship Monopoly tournaments, and has done so for a number of years.
That exists.
That actually exists. Wow. Just like there are video game competitions, there are, chess competitions.
Fair enough.
Monopoly.
Fair enough.
All right. And so she actually said in this article that the thimble was often chosen, the thimble and the iron, which went away, I don't know, several years ago, were actually usually chosen because in the official rules of Monopoly, you are only owed someone money if you land on their space and they ask you for rent. And because of the nondescript size or shape or whatever of the thimble, it was often overlooked. So in championships, like several times, people would overlook them and not ask for their rent, so they would lose out on money. And
what? Really?
True that, and it turned the tide of several championship games.
Pay attention.
I know,
They're
right?
shiny.
This is a championship game. There's probably only a few pieces on the board.
I don't buy that for 1 second.
Wow. So here's my thing.
It's in the journal. But what's interesting about this, though, is there are a number of different, obviously, offshoots of the traditional Monopoly. You've got Star Wars Monopoly, which I'm sure Spencer has. I have Chicagopoly, which has the pieces of the Sears Tower and an Eli's Cheesecake and the Chicago Tribune. Sean, what Monopoly do you have, if any?
We have Edmontonopoly, so I actually
No,
think
that doesn't even exist. Shut up.
It's a thing. It is a real thing. It's so stupid. I don't know. But actually, above on the shelf, we have an 8-bit Super Mario Monopoly.
Ooh, very nice.
Quite spot.
Ooh, that is cool.
Yeah.
What are the game pieces? Do you know?
Like just Mario, Peach, Toad. Who else is up there?
Luigi.
Dust that baby off.
A couple mushrooms are up there.
Bowser,
probably
maybe.
Not the best. Really, they probably could have done better than some mushrooms. But I guess anything's better than a rubber ducky.
Yeah.
This is why people are abandoning Monopoly and just going for the special editions.
That's
well,
right.
here's the other thing. Who really cares? Like, who would care enough to be like, hey, we need to replace these pieces?
Yes.
Because now we've got all these different versions, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and Lego and all the cities, and there's way too many ways to cause a divorce with this game. Do we really need to do that by choosing new pieces?
Yeah, it's no good. The thimble was great because then you could have your kids helping you out with all the sewing needs that you had around. You could just put them to work.
Exactly. Or it could be a small cup for a mouse or something, like a little like a little shot glass.
A little shot glass.
What's interesting about this? So Spencer says, who really cares? In this article, it also says there were a bunch of people that had, and Sean cares. There were a bunch of people that formed groups and small militias. There was Ace Hardware had a Save the Wheelbarrow campaign. There was
what?
There's a thimble something society of
Thimble Brigade.
A Thimble Brigade. They have to be 77 and older, but they're 500 strong, and they saved it 2 years ago when it was on the chopping block, but they couldn't do it this way. Mabel Dill is the president of the organization.
I love your commitment to this story, Steve.
I do what I can, Spence.
The research into
I get the hard
Thimble Brigade.
I dig
deep,
and
just
like
totally
Sean did.
missed this one. Yeah, that's
so.
awesome.
Anyway, there you go.
Wow. All right, Sean, let's move off the thimble and the wheelbarrow before a fight breaks out.
So happy to get us the heck out of there.
There you go.
And on to some music in Batman. So Hans Zimmer, who composed the superhero movies, retired last year. I didn't actually know that he did that Hans Zimmer is no longer making music for superhero movies. Now we know the reason. It was because he loves Christian Bale. And he loves the Batman, Christian Bale's Batman, so much that he struggled to write and find a theme for Ben Affleck's Batman. So apparently Hans Zimmer just can't move on, which is totally understandable.
He's got that crush.
He identifies the quality.
Is it really that he loves Christian Bale or that he hates Ben Affleck? I think that's probably the latter is more reasonable.
I know you hate Ben Affleck.
I'm just saying.
I love Ben Affleck. I don't like Batman v Superman, though.
See, that's what I think. I think he had a hard time with Batman v Superman, and you got to think, as a composer, he's probably just done with superhero movies, because he says he retired from superhero movies. Like, he didn't retire, altogether. He's not, secluded, keeping pee in jars in a room somewhere with toenail clippings.
It escalates right to that, does it? You put in your retirement papers and suddenly you're storing pee in Mason Dixon
You got to go
jars?
right to that Howard Hughes reference every single time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Grow some fingernails.
So, yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean,
has anybody checked what Hans Zimmer's mother's name is? Is there a chance her name is Martha as well? They could have saved this situation. Martha Zimmer?
Martha.
Maybe?
He's like, no, I just couldn't do it. They bespoiled Martha's name. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I mean, you got to think, we talked a while back ago, Steve, you remember we talked about, John Williams, not watching any of the Star Wars movies, and he's done a ton of stuff. You just got to think that after you do one genre for so long, you just got to get tired of that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
He can just go back to making all of Christopher Nolan's movies. That's it. Yeah. That's all I need from him forever and ever. That's it. I think that has more to do with it, actually, not rather than who's playing the Batman. It's who's directing the movie, because they got a nice thing going. Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, I like
Interstellar. Like Interstellar. Let's just talk about this movie for a second. Like when Matthew McConaughey's driving off, they don't even do the real launch sequence. It's just he's driving off. He's left his daughter behind. The rocket is taking off, and this music is just like swelling. And I'm like, what am I feeling right now? There's nothing really happening, but it's the music is just like, it's
why
like
am I crying on the inside?
My lungs are crying. I didn't know that was a thing.
Matthew McConaughey's just driving a Lincoln. Why am I weeping uncontrollably?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a Lincoln, man. That's all I do.
Is there a better word than weeping? Like it says everything you need to. It paints a picture. And
exactly.
Makes you look like a real wuss.
I weep every night. I put myself to sleep. That's right.
It's okay. Okay.
It'll be all right, Steve. It'll be all right.
Thanks. I'm just weeping over the thimble. Anyway, what I wanted to mention real quick before we move on is James Gunn, the director of Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Volume 2, says there would be a Volume 3. He just doesn't know if he'll direct it or not. He's kind of on the fence about it. He stated that he needs to figure out a few things before he decides. So he was questioned by a reporter and asked kind of straight up if he was going to do this. And my thought is this, like, back off, man. Like, are you TM freaking Z? Like, let him, like, get the second one out first. It's not even been released. Right. Are you asking about a third? Like, my gosh, man, let the man breathe. Thoughts, go.
I think we live in an age where everyone wants to know, like, what's next? What's coming up next? What are you doing? What's going on? And people just naturally can't stop themselves from asking certain questions, right? I mean, you knew it was going to come up. And I think also because it's Marvel, he's not going to say anything. He's got to wait until, things are appropriately doled out by Marvel and Disney, because they don't, say like, here, let me tell you what Spider-Man's going to do in the next movie just because you asked. They're going to wait and they're going to release it at an appropriate time. He's going to do it. If I'm putting money down, I'm going to put a quarter down right now, fellas, and say he's going to do it.
Big spender.
But it's a Canadian quarter, so it's actually worth more to Sean than it is you, Steve.
It's true. Sean, what are your thoughts?
Got some good game meat on the back of that quarter, by the way. You can Google that one. People are not gonna enjoy this. I don't really care about Guardians of the Galaxy even a little bit.
Really?
I think it is, in my opinion, one of the most overrated movies of the last decade. And don't care if there's a third one. Just like, I'm not as against it as I am about the sequels that are coming up for Avatar. I don't really feel anything. Like, I'm actually kind of indifferent about it, which is probably worse. Like, I actively dislike Avatar. Ooh, and I'll go out of my way to tell people who like it that they're wrong. But Guardians of the Galaxy, like, it's whatever. It's fine.
Maybe I'll play some Hans Zimmer music in the background and let it
swell. That would make it better.
There you go.
They just get rid of all this like cool rock music, this hip soundtrack that the kids are liking.
Right.
Get some booming non-anthemic Hans Zimmer in there.
I love how you sound like some like 80s guy, like, oh, the music them newfangled kids with the Chuck Berry are listening to. Elvis the
Remove
Pelvis.
all melody. You just get rid of all melody and just like bathroom noises.
Just flushing a pipe.
That's it. Yeah, no, don't. I mean, that's cool. It's funny how this becomes a thing of just this question, like asking a director a question about are there more coming, and then it becomes a whole story, and really they have nothing to say right now. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what the director is going to really say, if you could like read his mind and get his thoughts, is like, yeah, I'm going to wait till Disney pulls up a truck full of money and dumps out the dump truck in my front yard, and then I will say yes.
Hey, Peter Jackson, The Hobbit, hello. Right?
I mean, granted, it is a better response than what we were hearing from Daniel Craig about James Bond not too long ago, about he'd rather slit his wrists or cut out his eyeballs or ram something up his nose. I'm not sure what he said, but one of those was right. Yeah. Rather than make a new James Bond movie. Like, this is a much better response.
And then the news comes out, is like, they paid $50 million.
He's like, I'm in. Yep, I'm in.
Right?
Sign me up. All right, the last thing I wanted to talk about is because Rogue One is coming out this weekend on digital on iTunes and Google Play, and then on April 4th on Blu-ray, Rogue One's kind of back in the news again, and apparently there was a scene that was written, two things. There was a scene that was written, first of all, that had Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor living in the end of the movie, and not dying. However, they tried to write it and they tried to find ways to make it happen, and they just couldn't. Like, they went to these great lengths, and they eventually said, listen, it's just not meant to be. Which I'm glad that it ended the way it did. I'm glad they didn't try to do that and shoehorn a happier ending. I liked the way it ended. I thought it was great. But here's the thing about that ending. The best part about that whole movie, and that ending in particular, is the Darth Vader scene, right? I mean, he gets on board the big Calamarian cruiser, and he just goes complete full-on Darth Vader beast mode, right? And apparently, I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember that like right before the movie came out, there was this callback, and they were going to do some reshoots, and everyone was starting to freak out about reshoots, because if you call for reshoots like right before a movie is going to go out, people think that means the movie's going to suck, and that it was horrible, and that it was testing poorly. Well, it turns out that that's totally not the case. Darth Vader getting onto the ship and going full-on crazy was not part of the original script. And the director Gareth Edwards and the editor Yabez Olson decided at the last minute that they really wanted to show Vader getting onto the ship, and they thought it was important, so they pitched the idea to Kathy Kennedy, who's the head of Lucasfilm, and she said, yeah, let's do it. And like 2 weeks later, they had the whole cast back together, and they filmed that whole scene, and that's what the whole reshoots was. Do you think that movie would have been as good if that wasn't in there?
Absolutely not.
No, there's no way. That's what everybody's talking about when they walk out of that theater.
Yep. That is like the climactic. I mean, that scene where he's throwing people against the wall, back, forward, slash. I mean, it was fantastic. And then that scene when he's just standing there in the open bay door and his cape is flowing in the wind, like that's full on Darth Vader. That is what I paid my money to see.
What I'm so happy about this story, hearing this, is that I think you had to have Darth Vader in that scene, right? Because it really does tie over the end of Rogue One into Episode 4. Because if you know the continuity, there's supposed to be like a 10-minute gap between when Rogue One ends and when Episode 4 begins. And I think you had to have it. But it's just interesting to me that this was like an afterthought.
It was probably a bathroom thought. It was probably just somebody sitting on the toilet cleaning. They're not thinking about nothing. No troubles, no worries. And then, holy crap, Darth Vader could kill everybody.
And did I eat corn? This one, I didn't eat corn.
Speaking of holy crap.
Right.
That's where the thoughts come. That or the shower, man. I'm telling you.
Well, I know Gareth Edwards won't be listening, so I'm not afraid to say that, yeah, this was probably a toilet idea. So... Anyway, all right. I love Rebel Intelligence, but let's move on. Every week we always want you guys to tell your friends about the podcast and to let people know. And I just want to say that we appreciate our listeners. We appreciate everyone that contributes week after week. We continue to get more and more responses, and that's great. If you're listening and you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at Fort of Nerd. You can also reach us facebook.com/fortofnerd, and email fortofnerd@gmail.com. Steve, we need more people to listen. We need friends to find friends. How can we do that?
Folks, we need you to rate us on iTunes so the Fortress of Nerditude isn't as hard to find as Sean's U.S. work visa.
Very well done. Very well done.
Thank you.
All right.
I have a feeling they won't check me as intensely as some others. I might be able to sneak my way in.
If you don't say about. This guy's okay to pass. He's like, about. Oh, get him back.
Too late. Yeah.
This isn't the Canadian you're looking for. These aren't the Canadian you're looking for.
Right. We should try that. Right. Last week, we had this great conversation. We talked about Star Wars and kind of some of the stuff coming up. And I asked the question, what would be, if you had a lightsaber, what would its color be and why? And Sean, let's throw the question to you, because I know Steve said his answer was red.
No.
What? No, it wouldn't.
Dude, Sean even knows that
I'm just I trolled you so hard. Okay. Steve said green. I said blue.
No!
Come on, man. He said it was going to be aquamarine, and mine was blue. Sean, what would your color be and why?
I can't just pick one of the normal colors, Spence. You have to know that I'm going to be tinkering with this thing and I'm going to be customizing it. It's going to be mine will never be any single color because you see, Spencer, I don't see color. I accept all. So mine will be like
political
like
on us?
No, I'm actually going Fast and Furious on you. I'm gonna be like the ground effects under a Fast and Furious car. It'll just like you'll never know. I'll set like a soundtrack to it and it'll just like change to the beat. It'll be green, blue, yellow, black, white.
I like to kill people to house music.
Sean with his lightsaber of many colors.
Yep.
Donny Osmond, go for it.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be like the toys you get at Toys R Us. You just like you hit the little button and it just changes, just whatever you want.
Ding. All right, so we got some responses. Let's see what everyone has to say. Going over to Facebook, Eric Gifford, my brother-in-law, says orange, and he says the picture speaks for itself. And the picture says, your lightsaber color is orange. You tend to be more peaceful, so you focus on negotiations. But orange saber users are also very skilled in combat, like Jedi Guardians, blue lightsaber users. And that's right. I mean, that fits him. I know him. Now, oh man, we got some really good ones. Adam, our buddy from Megadad's Live, Adam Leonhardt at the Art of Adam L on Twitter says, mine would be a mood saber. So many changing colors. The way the Emperor would know when I'm feeling romantic.
That's what I'm talking about.
I feel the hate within you. No.
Oh my God, that's funny.
That's arousal.
So good.
I see your lightsaber grow.
I hate her when I get my Schwartz twisted.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine. Let's see how well you handle it.
Nathan Thomas at Voiced by Nathan says,
what's up, Nathan?
Green, because Return of the Jedi, Luke and Qui-Gon are the best. Now,
yeah.
I'll show you this picture later, but it's a picture of Nathan in full-on Return of the Jedi Luke garb, holding a green lightsaber, and if you look very closely at this picture, in the back of the room you can see a piano, and on the piano is Star Wars piano music. So, wow. serious nerd cred for Nathan right now.
A scholar and a gentleman.
Seriously. Moving on, Devin Tyus at DevATyus on Twitter says, it's all about the hashtag purple player saber.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
That was Prince's lightsaber as well, I think.
Yeah, probably. Purple saber.
With Sheena Ian at the back of a little red Corvette.
Yes. Josh Stapleton at CRed_81. What's up, Josh? He says, what's this if garbage? I have many lightsabers in my house. I'm the lone Sith in the family. Red, hashtag nerd alert, hashtag FON answers. And he's got a picture of his son Sammy with blue lightsaber, a red, a green, and another blue.
He's just grabbing it. He has no problems.
Dude, he's all over that thing.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Jeremy at Gerard45 says, green, hands down, the final saber battle. Let me try that again. Final saber battle in Return of the Jedi still gives me chills. I tell you what it is in that scene. It's when you see like Luke's face and it's half light and half dark, and Darth is just, like trying to get him to the other side. Ooh, it gets me every time.
Oof.
And then Jason Both at Jason_Both1 says,
what's up, Jason?
Mine would be a green lightsaber. The reason is that I'm always a student/Padawan. So, yeah, there we go. Now, I got one other answer, and this is a bit of a doozy. This is over on the good old Gmail. Of course, this is Peter Christensen. Yep. And he says, Dear nerds, first of all, my lightsaber color would be green because it matches my eyes.
Aww.
Then he goes into this, and bear with me a moment. Now, down to business. I object to your statement that Avatar has no room for a sequel. I would say that Avatar has one of the best sequel setups ever.
Yes!
The movie closes with Jake and the good humans putting the bad humans on the ship and sending them back to Earth. It takes the ship 6 years, or 4.5 years of light speed messages from Pandora, to get to Earth. This means that sometime 10.5 years from now, an undetermined human resistance from Earth may or may not, with or without warning. The scientists know this, but the Na'vi do not, and despite Jake Trudy, the driver from Inception, and everyone else help, they're not going to trust the humans. So in addition to the Na'vi tribes wanting to split back into their geographically dispersed tribes, everyone on Pandora will have to choose between going back to normal or preparing for an angry alien/human retaliation a decade from now like it's Contact. And Jake in his blue cat body is kind of a warrior king god to them, but he's also humanish, which makes it easy for a Na'vi enemy to question or undermine him. So take all that societal and personal conflict and end it with a space, air, and terrestrial battle directed by James Cameron. Apology accepted. Keep up the good show.
What just happened?
So did he say green? Was he a green lightsaber? Was it green? Okay.
Yes! Oh, I read that email when I got that, and I went, I can't get on board with any of this because I obviously did not like the movie. But the email,
I have a feeling I know what Peter's going to be
and
writing in next week about too.
Yeah,
Sorry.
The email all on its own was so good. I was like, I'm going to read it in its entirety because it was awesome.
Oh, his diatribes. Oh my gosh.
That amount of time you just took to read that is probably triple or quadruple the amount of time that I've given thought to Avatar since it was released in 2006.
Yeah, 2009. Yeah.
Didn't you hear the social implications of the? I didn't even get it.
Oh my gosh. Was that what it was? 2009?
Yeah,
Props,
2009.
Peter.
Oh man, it looks like it was made in 2006.
And your eyes are more of a hazel gray, to be perfectly honest.
We once again we thank everyone for their contributions and for writing
awesome.
in. Peter, that was extraordinarily funny.
Epic.
I'm going to agree to disagree, and apology is not accepted. It's rescinded, man. I can't get on board with that.
What if this though? What if this? Before we get off this topic though, what if you remember from Spaceballs when they go beyond light speed? Do you remember what happens?
Ludicrous
He goes to
speed.
plaid. Yeah,
They go to plaid. Why couldn't you have a lightsaber that's plaid? Huh?
That's a lumberjack. That's a Canadian. That's a Canadian. Yeah, Scottish works too.
River dance action before you slaughter somebody.
that's what the
Jedis?
Canadian Mounties need. I mean, just as we're tangenting here.
God, they're ridiculous.
If the Mounties had lightsabers, no one would take them, as a joke, right?
I guess not. I don't know. I feel like you could have that, but still the uniform, you're still gonna look goofy.
Right.
Maybe like the royal guards outside the palace in England.
That's what's hidden in their hats.
Yeah, they pop that thing off and they pull out a lightsaber and they're like, "Come back! I got the queen."
Queen Amidala!
Oh, anyway, wow. I love that idea. Like now, every time I look at that, I'm gonna think he's got a lightsaber under that
in
hat.
They've got Kylo Ren's because they need the size just to keep it all kind of like upright in there. You can't just be like the single pole. You got to have like the little tripod going.
That's right.
Yeah. By the way, Kylo Ren, is that got to be one of the coolest looking lightsabers? I mean, I love
badass. And the way that I mean, it's as if we've never realized how amazing it was until just this moment. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Give a sword a hilt? What is that?
Who would have thought of such a thing?
It's awesome.
Anyway, Sean, I wanted to ask you a question. You brought up something this last week on We the Gamer Cast that I wanted to delve into a little bit more because I think this jibes with a history Steve and I have.
Okay.
You mentioned on your podcast that you had this time in your life, I think teenage years somewhere, where you wanted to recreate Mortal Kombat fight scenes.
Oh, yeah.
And so you were filming it. Tell us more about this.
Oh, God. So, okay, this was the beginning of the internet, actually, of being able to buy something like online where you could go to like...
Is this online somewhere?
No. That would be that No, because this is still in the time of like dial-up internet. Like this is when it would take forever to actually
Juno
connect.
accounts and dot matrix printers.
AOL.
The reason that's important to this story is because I bought a video camera from Best Buy, and the pricing was wrong. In Canada, it's called Future Shop, but details.
Sure, same thing.
What the heck?
But the price was wrong, like so wrong. And so they had to honor, like you print it off, you go there and you say like, this is on your website. So they honored it. It was like this $700 camera that I got for, I don't know, $150, something crazy like that. Wow. And this like, all we ever wanted to do was make movies. This is obviously well before YouTube or anything like that. We were so desperate to create those types of things that we would, even before this time, we would create these little like video collages. We would have 2 VCRs sort of daisy chained together so that you could have one feeding into the next and you'd hit record, but we would just do little clips at a time. And so we'd do things like we would have the Universal Studios intro like on repeat for as long as we'd be willing to do it. So you'd have that do 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 and just like as many times as possible. It was Family Guy way before Family Guy. The repeat until it's like you do the 3 times and way beyond that. So we've been making stuff like that forever. And then I got my hands on this amazing video camera, which was like totally futuristic looking. You'd kind of hold it with your 2 hands, and the right hand, that's where like the lens was, and I'd be pointing it. With your left hand was actually like an LCD screen kind of thing. So you could actually see like the viewfinder.
Yeah.
There's this really cool thing. And
I remember that setup. Yeah.
Maybe a Sony. I can't remember.
Yep.
God, that was so long ago. Anyway, a friend of mine, he had this acreage and just a whole bunch of land. We would go out into this forest kind of thing, and some of the trees were large, like giant, thick trees. There's no way we're going to punch through it, but some of them were a little smaller. We could kind of work away, like we whittle away at with some knives or hammers or things like that, so that it would just take one epic looking punch to just kind of like smash through, and you'd have all the splinters going around. And all you would have to do after that is put that epic Mortal Kombat soundtrack that came out in whatever year that was, 1997. Hell yeah. I'm like, I like techno. And weird metal music. That's what we were doing, man. We were just ridiculous things like that, thinking that all you need to do is you just had a video camera and an idea, you could make movies. That's a kid's dream. Just let them create.
I heard this, and I felt this affinity for you and your buddy, because Steve and I did the same thing. We used to talk
when you were in college.
Last week,
yeah.
Kids. Steve also did the Family Guy take the joke too far. Like, we would always set up this shot, and we'd be ready, and then like Steve would have to come in from like off camera, but he'd always be like around a corner, so we couldn't quite see him. And then we'd like, action, and he'd walk in and like his pants would be at his ankles and he'd be in tighty whities, and we just bust up laughing, and then he'd laugh and then go back, and we're like, all right, let's do it again. And then he would do the same thing over. Like, we'd get like hilarious. 10 takes of like that in a row, and I'm like, okay, just that's enough. But same thing. But we had this idea that, I don't know why, but we wanted to make the Highlander. We wanted to do the Highlander, so we went over to Northern Illinois University's parking garage, and we were there like at 4 a.m. in the middle of the summer, and we had a boombox next to the camera so we could play
Queen.
Queen. Yes, it's the
Kings.
Princes of the Universe. Yeah. So it's the title song from the TV show Highlander. And so
we didn't get copyrights to the movie soundtrack. We had to go to the TV show.
Oh yeah, you were real worried about that.
Yeah,
right.
We were like 17, 18. Who knew? But we did the same thing. Like, we choreographed all these fights.
Hell yeah.
We used dowel rods instead of swords, and we're like, we'll just go in and edit them out later.
Yeah, that never happened.
Yeah. And then, like, you'd chop off someone's head, but, like, you'd film it in a way that, like, the big grease spot on the ground, if you position their body behind kind of this concrete pole a little bit, the grease spot looked like blood.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's the best. Well, we would do that all the way from, like, we were creating things when we were 4 years old, copying the Nintendo books, and we were drawing all the enemies and things like that, all the way until we were 18, 20, 26 years old, going into my parents' backyard. And we had this thing I used to do for my birthday. Actually started in 2006. We did it for, I think, 3 or 4 years. I had this, it was literally a bathroom thought where I was just like, you know what I want to do? I want to make my birthday a reality TV show. I want to set up cameras everywhere. I want to have people do drinking competitions. And at the end, you're just going to vote the weakest link out. Like, it was ridiculous.
Nice.
And what I always liked about Survivor and those types of things was the little like cheesy videos that they would show right before as they're explaining what the challenges were, like what they were going to be doing.
Right.
So they kind of have like these, we would take that and say like, you guys are going to do like an obstacle course, for example, but we actually stopped showing what people were going to do and just created these weird skits.
Nice.
And we had this thing where neighbor Matt, who I'm doing this with, my best friend for my entire life, we had this thing where he had this ongoing fight and this kind of like the Chicken and Peter from Family Guy, but again, before Family Guy.
Right.
He just kept running into this masked ninja, like with a black mask on top, but it was obviously like one of his karate friends. He was taking Taekwondo at the time. And so they would have like this epic battle, and we'd have the camera propped up on like the top of the house or the garage. We'd have these epic shots, and the fight scene would come to an end, and the black ninja would have a killing strike on Matt, and then this reveal scene would go right up to the black ninja in the mask. And he'd be like, "Who's under there?" And he'd whip off his mask, and we'd switch it to neighbor Matt, who's underneath. So it's actually the same guy who's doing both sides.
Ooh.
Like, such a good time. I should actually, that is online somewhere. I should find that out somewhere, because that's in the new age.
Yeah,
that
send me
is
the link.
Good times. We've got Street Fighter music playing in the background. It's so good.
So we got this, like, I don't know, we had this bug. Like, I really for a long time thought I want to go to college and I want to go to filmmaker school. Like, I want to go to film school and, you know, make movies, because I just loved that stuff. Steve and I we'd be sitting around his table or my table, and he's like, I got this idea. Let's go grab the video camera. And that's always how an adventure began.
Good. That's so much fun. That's just it. Like, just, you have the tools to create something, and friendships are made forever.
Yeah. It was like little things even. Like, I remember I had to, for some reason, like at our church, they'd asked me to come in and talk to like the real young kids and like introduce like the Old Testament, because that was going to be the theme that year. And it was like,
oh my gosh.
And it was like midnight, and I was like, man, I have no clue what I'm going to do tomorrow. And Steve's like, I got an idea. It's like, we made like a little Lego boat, and we put it in the sink with water, and we were using the little nozzle to spray, and we did like Noah's Ark, and then we did this thing where...
No, wait. The best of that is this. There's a candle lit, and suddenly there's this hand comes out into the screen, and there's a thing like this, and it starts to go like this, and then it's like, the earth was formed, and it's a thing of silly putty that Spencer's molding. It was so sacrilegious, my gosh. Many kids left the church that day, let me tell you.
Well, that is so good.
We did like a little bit where I stood up between, like, we had an island in our kitchen. So like you could stand on the island, like, and like cross your leg over and stand on the counter on the other side. And so I was filming from up top and had the point of view looking down, and Steve kind of did his best Dorf impression where he got down on his knees
Conway.
And put his
shoes on my knees.
And he takes like this like little like ball of string with like this tin ball and pretend to be Dave, and he throws it up. It's like, I'm gonna get you, mister, and you meanie. Oh
my god, that is hilarious.
Didn't we use your cat as well with like Daniel the Lion's Den with like a little Lego guy, and the cat's
with
all
a
like
Lego guy
and stuff? Oh yeah, this was
like,
high quality production.
We literally filmed junk for like 5 hours.
That's like Team America. Like, didn't they have like little cats instead of the pumas or whatever?
Yes. The weird thing was like we took this in the next day, and we were like really proud of this, and like we put it in the VCR, we hit play, and then as it starts playing, I'm like, what were we thinking? No. But like the kids loved it, and like adults kept going out and like grabbing other adults and pulling them in. They're like, you got to come watch this. This is great.
Oh, that's the best.
The problem is that Spencer used the tape, but it was a previously used tape from like Showgirls, and so he had recorded all this stuff, and then it stopped. The kids are like, "Oh my gosh, mommy!"
Such a lie, but a funny one.
Good times.
No. So here's my question. Like, nowadays, kids that want to do this, I mean, gosh, when I was our time, like you talked about, like, you know, daisy chaining 2 VCRs together. Like we looked at this and we're like, you know, we'll do this editing. It was all like clever filming to try to get things done, because like you try to like cut edit, and you know, there was no digital editing, right?
Yeah.
But like all the things that are available now to kids, I mean, I'm just amazed at how far that's come.
Yeah, you can make an Oscar-winning movie like almost by accident now. I think that's how that works.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, download this 99-cent app and you can have an alien that comes bursting from your chest. And it's like, where was that when we were kids? Instead, we're like laying on our side, holding the ketchup bottle and squishing it and making it look like blood's pumping from our chest. And
yeah, we would have done stuff like that too. Totally, yeah. And the ketchup never worked the way that you wanted, and that's where you really had to start.
It just kind of oozes, like it never.
Yeah,
it's
not
like,
good, and it stinks, and it like really stains things. It's not a pretty sight.
Many a morning, my mother would wake up and see the mess that we had left, and just. She was very unhappy at times, but
honey, ain't the only grapes.
Yeah,
kids will be kids.
Did you guys ever do like backyard wrestling?
I did with Josh a lot, and then there was the one time with Steve and the fireman's carry, and
So one thing I wanted to mention though, what's kind of cool about this, because my son is all about this as well, and I actually give him this little small like handy cam thing that I have that's waterproof and like shockproof, and he videotapes all sorts of stuff. And I said, what's interesting is I used to make movies with my friends when I was a kid, and we loved it and whatnot. And I showed him a video on YouTube of M. Night Shyamalan and some of the movies that, if you've seen any of his movies, a lot of times he'll have these in the outtakes of the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Some of the alien movies that he used to make when he was a kid. There was one where he's like a drug lord and he kidnaps, one of his friends gets kidnapped. He's got to go rescue them, and there's drug money and all this stuff. And to see like that he's actually become a legitimate, Hollywood director. And it's, we started the same way.
We missed our shot. We missed it.
Yeah.
You were right there.
I know.
So close.
It's amazing to see that like they started the same way. It's a cool
So
thing.
Sean, to get to your question, backyard wrestling, me and Josh, yep. But we did it in the house a lot.
Yep.
So we would use our couch as like the ring ropes and
cushions.
the turnbuckles, and famously in our house. So do you remember Kevin Nash? Or he also went by Diesel for a while, right? His move was the jackknife powerbomb. Now,
so good.
If you know Josh is like
this should be good.
Josh is 6'4", and I'm 6 foot. Josh is much taller than me, but Steve can attest. We had a way of getting Josh to do things that he may not wanted to have done, and so I convinced him that we would practice and do the jackknife powerbomb. So we took all the pillows and cushions off Mom's couch, and we put them on the floor and laid them out, so if I, flipped him up.
Safe.
So he's safe, right?
Oh, yeah. Sure, absolutely.
And of course, so like the first couple attempts, I was just trying to like manhandle, like pull him all the way up myself, because the jackknife powerbomb, the guy puts his head between your legs and you flip him up so he's sitting on your shoulders, facing the opposite direction you are.
Yeah,
and
beginner's move.
Yeah, beginner's easy stuff. And then
this is where you start.
And you throw him and he lands on his back. So that's the move, right? So the first couple times didn't go so well. But finally,
couple times.
Well, because we tried, getting the flip part and just trying to get the timing right, and like how much he had to push off versus like when I really had to power pull to get him to flip up, because he's a lot taller than I am.
And he's 6'4". I was going to say, did we mention he's 6'4"?
Yeah, he's 6'4" and I'm 6 foot, and so at this time I'm like I'm maybe like 18. He's like 16 or so. So we're not like little kids either, and we finally kind of get it so I can flip them up pretty easy. And so I said, okay, here, we're going to do this. I'll make sure that I release you low and you'll just only fall like 3 feet right onto the pillows. So he's like, all right. And I get him down there and I flip him up, and then I immediately turn 90 degrees and I slam him from as high as I possibly can onto the floor, which is like concrete, little thin pad, carpet, nothing else.
Oh.
And Josh it was the dullest, sickest sounding thud when he cracked onto the ground. Oh. And immediately he's like, "You idiot! You missed!" And I'm like, "I didn't miss.
You missed.
I got it perfect."
I was aiming for the hearth.
Oh.
You could have killed him.
I know.
He's crying. He's laughing so much.
Right?
It's just, it's one of those things like where Josh and I, when we grew up, like, we would do these little things like where at the last second, whatever we were going to do, we would twist it a little bit and, do something. Because, brothers. I mean, that's kind of how things go.
Because brothers. Mm-hmm.
And we were close. Like we were about 2.5 years age difference. It's like we grew up doing everything together. We shared rooms and we, played sports in the backyard together and watched wrestling and American Gladiators. And we set up, like a little obstacle course and threw socks at each other and whatnot. So
It's funny hearing you guys talk about sports separately, though, because he mentioned something that you just kind of leave out, and it was about, he mentioned to me the last time we talked about how much better at basketball he was.
Oh, he schools me.
Oh, okay,
now,
there it is.
Now, as a kid, though, when we were younger, we used to have this like adjustable hoop, and like we could move it down to like 6.5 or 7 feet, and I could dunk on it at the time, and he couldn't. And I was like, yeah, look at me, look at me. And then over the course of like one summer, he went like 11 inches up. And then he just dominated me, and he was swatting me down. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm done. I retire.
That's like karma. That's like karma again.
And I was done. No, my brother, once we got to that certain age, he just started schooling me in basketball, and I just stopped. It's one of those things where it's the reason why I don't play NFL Madden with him. Like, I never will play Madden with him ever again. The last time I played with him was 2006. Because he destroyed.
Because if I can't win, I ain't playing.
Well, the thing is that Josh destroys me so efficiently and so well that like it's like the third quarter and he's up 76 points and I've got like 3 because I got lucky and kicked a field goal, and so it's just not fun for me. And that's not his fault. I mean, kind of, because he runs up the score.
Sounds like it's his fault,
but I suck at the
it's your
game.
fault because you
just
suck.
Oh,
yeah,
actually,
I
that
just
sounds
suck.
like it's a you problem.
I was like, let's bust out Final Fantasy VII and see who the real man is.
Right.
It's like, that's single player.
He hates RPGs. I was like, come on, man, give me something. But no, yeah, I mean, Josh, he schools me in basketball, so yeah. But I did powerbomb him onto the concrete floor, so I think it's all even in the end. And really,
There's a brain hemorrhage is just waiting to pop.
He's alive. He's doing well.
Right now, as we're recording this, Josh's back is hurting, and he doesn't know why.
Exactly.
He's like, it's like a voodoo doll again.
Lean.
So Sean, let me ask you this. I want to get into this a little bit and see, because I'm interested in podcasting. Obviously, Steve and I are doing this podcast, and I've listened to podcasts for a while. What was your impetus? Like, what got you into podcasting?
Man. I had actually I never thought I would get into this sort of medium at all, because my dad listens to talk radio at full blast. I can't remember. Did I talk to you about this?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
My dad listens to talk radio full blast, and I'm like, oh, that is just the lamest. I will listen to music forever and ever and ever. And turns out I'm not going to be listening to new music all the time. I've got kind of and that's a whole other conversation. I need to find some new music. I've hit that point. It's so sad, but I actually don't, because I definitely recognize that that's happening. So I'm sort of actively avoiding it, but not really. Like, I'm in a strange place with music, but
to the complacency.
Podcasting kind of offers this nice diversion of, well, I'm not going to pay attention to music at all. I'm just going to free every silent moment with somebody talking about either video games or comedy or anything like that. And so it always wanted, the term podcast always intrigued me. I'd always heard about it when iPods were around, and back then, when they first came out, you'd have to sync up with iTunes on your computer. Like, your subscription would be run on iTunes on your computer, and that's how you interact. And it wasn't until I got my iPhone and they separated podcasts out of the music app. I don't know if you remember that. I think it was iOS 6 or something. They actually separated it out so it was its own app, and I'm like, oh, I can do podcasts now. And a friend of mine, actually, Gary, who I did Nerdflix and Chill, he introduced me to podcasts originally, and that's why I wanted him to have his show, because that guy's born to talk, especially about movies and comedy and all these other things. So I asked him, what's a guy to do? What are your first podcasts that you listen to? And he was into Adam Carolla from Man Show and things like that. There's this podcast that I still listen to called The Crab Feast. There's just these two comedians, and they have a guest come in, and they just tell stories. It's just a story-based kind of thing. And I was hooked, man. I was listening to these shows. Adam Carolla was daily. Crab Feast was every week. And I was the more I got into it, the more I needed more. And I found myself because I take the bus going into work, and I found myself just laughing, but trying not to laugh. And that makes it way worse, because you're trying to just be a polite person on the bus. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so funny. And then, I actually don't even know exactly how it happened, but I discovered that video games have podcasts, and this just kind of that was it. It just
Done.
blew the door open
Yep.
on everything. I mean, obviously, who doesn't love comedy? But yeah, as soon as I started listening to things like Beyond and Nintendo Voice Chat, or basically just running through the gamut of the IGN podcast, just kind of opened me up to all these different things. And yeah, lo and behold, one day I'm on Twitter and Married to the Games follows me, and I feel like the rest is history. After that, they send me that direct message of thanks for the follow or something like that.
Right.
Like listen to our podcast. I'm like, I'm not listening to your podcast. I'm not doing what you tell me to. But I was in this like mood of looking for new shows, because I'm like, I've got more time. I'm only subscribed to like 6 podcasts right now. I've got time. I could do a couple more. So I gave this one a shot, and Married to the Games was like the one that got me through like basement renos here. Gosh, it's been 3 or 4 years, I guess now. It's been so long. But yeah, man, that was kind of the intro. Is just once it became an app and I was able to just kind of dive in from that standpoint, I'm all over the place now. I was listening to Freakonomics for a little while. Mark Maron's show WTF is really the inspiration for my show, which is kind of gonna do a little one-on-one time with the audience and then do an interview with a new guest every time. That's exactly like, if you listen to his show, it's exactly the same.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no shame in saying that I totally ripped that one off. It's better than ripping off every other video game podcast, I guess. So just taking that format and adapting it to this one. So I don't know. That's kind of the story.
I'm always curious to see like where people like get the idea. Like I remember talking with Gabe Patillo, and Tim Hull had the idea for Married to the Games, and kind of the genesis of that. The idea for Fortress of Nerditude kind of sprung out of a conversation I had with Gabe Patillo like 2 Christmases ago, and then kind of percolated for a while. And I'm always just curious as to like how people create things, right? Like we were talking about, the whole idea of, grabbing a video camera and going out and, filming, Mortal Kombat in, your buddies, acreage, and, Steve and I doing Highlander over at the parking garage at Northern. And I'm just always curious and excited to hear how people come up with stuff, because I don't know in Canada if you ever got this, but like the Behind the Music, it was like on VH1. I love that, because you listen to this music and you hear all this great artistry, right? And then you find out like, oh, well, this band member was having a problem with this band member and this and that. And then he wrote a song about her, or she about him. And you learn all these cool things. You're like, wow. I love that. I love like ripping open the curtain and seeing the wizard, back behind there, and finding out some crotchety old man just pulling levers and trying to convince people he's a wizard.
I honestly usually find that gives me a better appreciation for it. Well, that actually is not making it sound quite right enough. Usually if I know the backstory behind something, I'll actually enjoy the material more. Right. A good example of that is one of the later Foo Fighters albums. They did the whole documentary. They did, what was it? The 8-track album, the last one that they did, and it was like a new song in a new city, and they videotaped the whole thing. I remember listening to that for the first time, going like, I like it. The couple songs in there, they're fine. And then I watched the documentary, and I'm just like, I don't know, something about knowing the story behind it, and you pick apart the song and all the different voices that are in there that you didn't hear at the start. It just gives you this whole other appreciation for the material itself. Even just this past weekend, BioWare was, well, they're always in town, but they were promoting Mass Effect, and they did this whole reveal, and it had me pumped for the game in a way that I wouldn't have been otherwise. Just sitting down with the developers for whatever it was, half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm like, man, I'm really excited for this game now. And I really wasn't before that. And it is about just getting to know people, knowing that it isn't just a product, but it's a passion project for a lot of people, that there's heart and soul and blood, sweat, and tears put into it. Just for me, and I think for a lot of people, just lets you appreciate it more. And that's truly the heart and soul of We the Gamercast, is to pull that curtain back. Because I think sometimes within a format of a show, you go through the motions, like you kind of do the things that make your show, but you don't really ever get a chance to, unless you do kind of what you guys are doing, which is take the time just to say like, what's up with your life, and kind of have that IRL from Flux to Pose kind of thing. Just give that little peek. And I think that's really what helps people connect with you.
Well, I appreciate that, you saying that, because it's something we actually talked about a lot, as we talked about the idea of, do we want to do we want to talk about ourselves some, or do we just kind of want to get into like what's going on around us and, what's happening and then have a discussion about something, an interaction. And, and I just kind of had this feeling that, people will stick with the podcast if the audio sounds well. Geez, I can't speak right now. If the audio sounds good, they'll stick with the podcast, and B, if they like the people that are on it. And so we decided consciously to make that decision to talk about ourselves.
So you kept Josh from coming on the show. That was real mean.
I wanted Josh on the show.
I'm just kidding.
A matter of fact,
I want Josh on the show too, actually.
Dude, I talked to Josh and I begged him to come on the show, and he's like, well, I mean, the new baby on the way, and
you guys do such amazing impressions of each other. It is hilarious.
I mean, I don't know if I got enough time, and I don't really have a place to record, and he gave me this laundry list.
So bad.
And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I got to respect it. It's his choice. It's his decision. I'm still going to mock him and give him crap because he's my brother. The frog,
though. He's like, oh, anyway, Miss Piggy, I'd like to, hey, Fuzzy Bear.
I'd like to, but I can't right now because I have to go sing the Rainbow Connection.
So, Sean, I want to say one thing. So, I always...
Josh, I'm sorry I even brought it up, man.
I always appreciate, though, the fact that, we can talk about entertainment, we can talk about movies, video games, and everything else, but ultimately, just sharing our lives, sharing our lives and being able to connect with our audience as well and find out about, Peter Christensen. I love when he, gives us a shout out. It's always thoughtful. It's, he shares a little bit about himself. One of the things I wanted to ask you, so speaking of your podcast specifically, what are some of the, you have somebody on every show. What's the most interesting person you've interviewed, or what's something that you've even been surprised by with a guest that you've had on that you've learned or an experience that they've shared or whatnot?
Well, aside from Josh and Spencer Stapleton,
one
of the most
butter that crap up. Checks on the way.
God, this is well. The great thing is that I got these cool coasters from Josh, so we got hooked up with having him on the show.
Cool.
I've had so many. The great thing about We the Gamercast is that we can talk about video games for an hour, or we can talk about our relationships with our fathers. Like, it is so vast, and that's really just sometimes. It just depends on what's in the air that day. And I've had conversations with some people who have broken down into tears in front of me. And I've had some people say on a number of occasions, and this is the most rewarding thing that I never saw coming. There's been a number of times people said after we finished recording, or even a day later or something, as they've listened back to the episode, they're like, I've never told that to anybody before. I've never thought of that situation in that framework before. And to me, that even just I'm as I'm telling this to you, I'm recounting this happening, and it's giving me chills. It's just a conversation, and for whatever reason, there's always whatever we're talking about has a history. And I think we kind of touched on that today, where we talk about creating the podcast. It reminds us in a way of our childhoods, of making these videos and just going out and being stupid. There's this nostalgia factor when it comes to being grown up and having a job and being able to spend our grown up money on the things that remind us of the fun times.
Right.
But there's something that is next level about see, I did it okay there.
Nice.
About creating content, because it just taps into this part of the brain that I hope will never leave me. That I hope that I will always remember creating things with my friend, neighbor Matt, and my friends Chance and all these other things. That is way more powerful and profound than, I obviously have great memories of sitting around playing Star Fox, but that is it. So when you ask about who some of the more memorable guests, it's so hard to answer. But if I got to pick one, the guy who got to pick is Chris Burdo, who spent some time in the Navy and or the Army. I actually had another guy in the Navy. And some of these guys come on and talk about their time in the service, and the stories that they tell are just harrowing. And somehow they relate to video games. Right. Somehow, video games either got them through, or they were playing a game at the time, or something. But Chris Burdo, I remember when he was on, it just sort of there was a string of episodes where we were getting real heavy for a good month in there, and Chris Berto was definitely the guy who kind of like steered the ship there, and that's where Johnny Casino, who I think you guys know, I think he heard Chris's story and was like, man, I gotta tell you about my time in the Navy, and he came on and I'm like, holy crap, I got the land, sea, and air coming at me in this podcast, and it is so cool. And I know that connects a lot with a lot of the listeners who are like, I had no idea that my brothers online were overseas when I was playing with them in this game, or that they've had these experiences. So yeah, man, it's so cool that we've been going for about a year and a half now, and I've had such an amazing time just learning about all these different people and having them come on to share so openly. It's incredible.
Congratulations, by the way, year and a half. That is awesome.
It is. I can't believe it. Like, people actually want to come on. Like, that was the whole thing of, can I string together a couple of weeks? And now it's to the point of, like, I probably could do 2 to 3 episodes a week. Like, that's awesome. That's how many people I got to kind of get through, which is,
you gotta like push people off. Like, I'm sorry, we're booked for the next few months.
Yeah. No, and it's not that. Like, I really wish that there could be, I don't know. There's the other part of me too, is that I don't want to, dry up the well, like I have no idea like how far this goes, and like at some point surely I will run out of people, so I'm not sure.
But I mean,
so cool.
I think it's a testament though that you've been doing that for a year and a half, and then you also do If We Ran Nintendo, and that's coming up on its 1-year anniversary here in another like 2 weeks, right? Yeah, because I think
that show was born out of We the Gamer Cast too. Like,
right? Because I
would be remiss
on,
not to mention that. Yeah, totally. That was, he just came on, and I don't know if I've told him privately, but don't think I've really said this publicly. But like, when the week before Bobby came on, I think I was about, I don't even know if I was 10 episodes in, and I'm like, man, this is taking me way longer than I thought, and I'm not feeling confident in myself, and I'm not really sure, like, this is what I want. I really just wanted to see, could I do it? And a couple episodes in, I'm like, yeah, I guess technically I did it. So, like, I really wasn't sure what the future of We the Gamer Cast was on at that point. And then Bobby came on and tells this story about running, like, backseat driving to his mom, taking him to the store to buy his NES. And I was just in stitches. The way that he remembered that story that happened 30 years ago. And he remembered every left turn. He remembered every red light and every stop sign from going from home to the store to pick up. And he remembered the guy who he had one on, he was going to get one put on hold, but the guy at the store wouldn't let him. And so he really had to rush his, like, he remembered amazing details. I don't even know what I wore to work today. Like, I've already changed. I don't even remember like that. So Bobby saved the show. And he had me, like, that was such a great episode. And if anybody had a chance to pick one of the old ones, that is the one to go back to where things really, really turned around.
So I feel like it would be safe to say that Bobby was kind of his episode was the linchpin that really kind of helped you go from, yes, I can physically do this, and, I can get the logistics down, to like wanting to do that and like really digging into it.
I mean, I'm hesitant to give Bobby any
too much credit. Yeah, right.
I'm sure like Josh, your brother was on only a few weeks later. That probably would have saved things. No, I'm just kidding. Of course. No, Bobby saved the show. Yeah. Bobby saved the show. Like, there's no doubt about it. No do to boot it. Yeah, there would be, I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't for Bobby. That's for sure.
That's awesome. I find that we all have these like moments in our lives, right? Especially when it comes to like creative things. Like, it's like the, go home or, push forward moment, right? You got to, you're either going to break through and something great is going to come out of it, or you're just going to pack it up, go home, and call it a day.
Spence, man, I could talk to you all day about that. Like, that is my life, and I love looking back at those forks in the road because they are so clear to me.
Yeah.
They're like the decision of, either I'm going to work at a Safeway for the rest of my life, or I'm going to go to university. I'm either going to go to class this day or skip it. But if I go to class, there's going to be this presentation for an internship. And if I take it, then I'll get into this job, which is going to lead me into working for the Alberta Cancer Foundation. And if I work for the Alberta Cancer Foundation, I will meet this lady named Chelsea. And one day I'll marry her. And one day I will have a baby with her. And like, it all leads to that decision of, am I going to go to university? Like, the forks are so clear to me.
Yep.
And I remember them so vividly. And I think that is so important for people to recognize the choices that we have, the power that we have to advance ourselves to, even if we don't know exactly where we're going, man, it is just thinking about that is
I
super
smell
profound,
another
dude.
podcast in the works for you.
No, We the Gamercast is that too. Like we can chat about that sort of stuff too. We can talk about video games, but we can also talk about how did we end up where we're at.
Right. Which I think is cool. Like we were kind of talking about, I'm with you. Like had I not gone through the divorce with my first wife, I never would have came up to Utah because my brother had a basement that I could live in for a few months while I got my feet under me and got a job. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have got an apartment downtown Salt Lake, and then I wouldn't have met my wife, and we wouldn't have fallen in love and gotten married. And, there's all sorts of things that happened, but that wouldn't have happened if other decisions hadn't been in place, right? Mm-hmm, I had to go through what I went through back then to get to where I am now. And I think we all have those wonderful forks in the road, right?
So cool, man. Yeah, totally.
So one last question, Sean. One last question, because I agree, and I don't want to stop the feel good fest, but one last question. Will you feel like your podcasts that you already do, I know, but would you feel your podcasts are worth it if they make it onto Voyager 3 and are sent up to be with Chuck Berry?
Yeah, that's actually the ultimate goal.
You've arrived then, right? That's where I know this whole thing is going.
Well, what I'll do instead, because that probably won't happen, is I will build one last model rocket with my dad.
That's right. And it's going to go 3 feet. It's going to go fall into a tree.
No way, man. I'll tell you, we had some rockets that had a little payload in the middle, like you could get like a clear plastic.
And a nuke.
You could put like a little G.I. Joe in there. You could. And you could, but the other thing that you could do too is like overload them with engines. You could get you had specific size of engines for the different models. And the best thing that we would do is take my little sister. She had these little, these tiny pink ones. And we would put the ones for the big rockets. We'd shove them up there and that thing was gone. We never saw those ever again. We didn't care how neon that thing was. Yep, totally.
Wow.
Yep. That'll have to do.
That's awesome. Well, let's kind of tie a bow on this conversation. Every week we end our show with a question for our listeners, and I'm thinking that this week we need to tie it in with kind of what we're talking about with creativity, right? I think it should be something along the lines of, maybe, what do you do? What is your creativity? Like, what's your little nook in this world? Like, where do you find solace or peace in doing something that's creative and creating something or making something or doing something? I'd like to hear that, because like we were talking about, knowing people and knowing kind of, what drives them and why they do something makes you appreciate that all the more. Yep. So let's do that, guys. Let us know what's your creative
outlet.
Yes, what's your outlet? And let us know. We're going to put the question up a little bit later in the week as a reminder, but facebook.com/FortofNerd, Twitter @FortofNerd, or our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. Before we get out of here, Sean, I want to give you an opportunity to close us out and let all of our listeners know where they can find you on the internet, on Facebook, in the outer sphere of our solar system when you get there.
Oh, well, to keep it simple, just on Twitter, it's Sean Capri, of course. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants.
Yes!
I feel like Bart Simpson, I didn't do it.
Eat my shorts. Yeah!
I didn't do it.
So, yes, you're also, come on, tell us the podcast. Not, you got this moment, my friend, take it.
I know, but sometimes you get too much. Okay, so We the Gamercast is on iTunes and Google Play every Monday, and I'm also on a show called If We Ran Nintendo with Bobby, the Nintendo Guru, and we basically just pretend like we run in the show. We got a couple of topics, and that we say what they're doing wrong and how we would fix it. It's so much fun. That's on youtube.com/Nintendo Guru.
Yep. Thank you so much. Bobby, we're going to get you on here sometime. I'm not going to leave you out, buddy, because I want to hear the other side of the story about how you were on We the Gamercast and saved it. So we'll get you on here shortly. But Sean, in a most romantic, platonic way,
Bring it on.
I love you, man. I'm so glad you joined us tonight and that we got to do this. It was a lot of fun. You are welcome anytime, my friend.
All right, we'll see you next week, man. Thank you so much.
I echo that. So we usually close us out. I don't know if you know how we close out, but Sean, if you do the honors, a little Star Wars send off, if you would. That'll have to do.
All right. Well, from all of us at the Fortress of Nerditude, may the Force be with you always.
Thanks for letting me ramble, guys. I appreciate it. That was awesome.